Welcome to the 15th annual Moran Address. This event takes place each spring to honor Dr. William C. Moran, who served as the Vice President for Academic Affairs at Francis Marion College from 1978 until 1992, when he became the president at Lander University, a position he held for 8 years. Dr. Moran's dedication to public service and higher education was recognized in 2000 when he was awarded the state's highest civilian honor, the Order of the Palmetto. Additionally, he was awarded the Governor's Award in the Humanities in 2008. This year's address will be presented by Dr. John Tuttle, Professor of English, and as of yesterday, Professor Emeritus. His talk this afternoon is titled, "I Guess It's Time." John earned his BA from the University of Utah and his MA and PhD from the University of New Mexico. He began his career at Francis Marion in 1990 as a specialist in modern drama, and during his 34 years of service to the university, John has been appointed as a Board of Trustees Research Scholar in 2005, named a Distinguished Professor in 2010, and awarded a Doctor of Humanities degree in 2023. For many of the students in the auditorium today, they know Dr. Tuttle best because of his work as the Honors Director, a position he has held since 2013. John is an award-winning playwright whose plays have been produced at theaters across the country, and I think that we are all about to receive a taste of John's brilliance as a playwright and his ability to connect with an audience. Please join me in welcoming Dr. John Tuttle.
Good evening.
Good evening. Mrs. Michael.
Oh, yeah. Thank you for coming, everyone. As my biography indicates, I arrived at FMU in 1990, and one of the first people I met was Dr. Bill Moran, who was then Chief Academic Officer and whose rich, resonant baritone I would soon recognize as the very voice of wisdom. What a pleasure it is to give this address in his honor, and what a pleasure it has been to report to all of those who succeeded him, with perhaps one exception. In June, as my biography also indicates, I will ring down the curtain on my 34-year career here. Cheryl and I will retire in Rock Hill, where we've already closed on a cozy little red brick bungalow with a porch just perfect for our FMU rocking chair. We're excited to reinvent ourselves and to explore a new life together, and have not planned anything too specific beyond taking measurements for window treatments and designating which room will be available to the captain. And so to business. As many of you know, spending your life in front of a classroom tends to warp your sense of self and your place in the world. As educators, we expect people to pay attention to us, and we're actually bewildered when they don't. This is one of the great tyrannies of teaching, this belief that we're fascinating and have crucial things to say. I don't think normal people get the feels. That belief is compounded in my case by decades of teaching dramatic literature and playwriting, subjects which have very probably skewed my perception of the conduct of life. Plays are, after all, narratives that begin in one place and end in another, and as I tell my students, echoing the Greeks, by examining how those points are connected, we might divine for ourselves the right way to live. And so the task I set for myself this evening was to ask myself, as I considered my life, what kind of play it has been. Who wrote it? Maybe how it will end. If, for instance, my life were a play by Henrik Ibsen, it would have been a purposeful journey abetted by logical causation, culminating in an inevitable climax during which all of the conflicts are resolved and after which everyone could go home relieved. But my life has been anything but Ibsenesque. Most of the time, as some of you have observed, I haven't had the slightest idea what I was doing, or for that matter, what I wanted. I've not even been the same character from one act to the next, and how certain things fell in line, I will never understand. Like why I left my microphone. If, for... There's no logic here. If, for further instance, my life were a play by Samuel Beckett, I would be the one relieved it's almost over. His characters are barely sentient husks struggling against a lonely futility, longing and pining just to get it over with, and saying things like, "Birth was the death of me," or "To every man his little cross until he dies," or "The day you die is just like any other but shorter." Beckett is, I'm saying, unbearably bleak, but that's never been remotely how I've felt. Each year I've spent here has been immensely gratifying, with perhaps 2 or 3 exceptions. I doubt normal people get to say that about their careers. The truth is, I could not have written such a life for myself. I have often felt that I'd snuck into someone else's story. Nor is my life a Wendy Wasserstein play, for if it were, I'd be the sort who could effortlessly weave pithy insights and poignant truths into fanciful epigrams, like, say, Becky Flanagan, who is also retiring this year. Nor is it a David Mamet play, for if it were, I would be an irascible old woodchuck baffled by late-stage capitalism, like, say, Ben Kyer, who is also retiring this year. Nor is it an A.R. Gurney play, for if it were, I would be an urbane New England sophisticate, like, of course, Travis Knowles, who could have retired this year, but Fred Carter got to him first. So, all right, if I had to choose one playwright, or in fact one particular play that has been my life, I would say it's Rosencrantz and Guildenstern Are Dead by Tom Stoppard. Some of you are familiar with it. For those of you who are unfamiliar, that is the play that launched Stoppard's estimable career when it premiered at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival in 1966. It explores the fate of 2 minor characters in Shakespeare's Hamlet who are at first summoned to spy on the troubled prince, then later to escort him to England where he is to be murdered. On the boat, however, Hamlet learns of their scheme and has them killed instead. And that's it. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern exist in an imaginary world for only a few pointless minutes and accomplish precisely nothing before dissolving back into oblivion. If Shakespeare had been in my playwriting class, I would have insisted he cut those 2 out completely. But it's in their very pointlessness that Stoppard finds his purpose. He takes 2 irrelevant extras and with them invites us to examine our assumption that each of us is life's protagonist and that everybody else is merely playing a supporting role, passing through our field of vision only as necessary. He offers us a version of Hamlet that has no interest in Hamlet. And so when the prince exits a scene, we don't follow him. We stay with them, with Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, and watch what they do, which is mostly to bumble. When they're done bumbling in one place and are ready to bumble in another, and this is a very important thing to remember for a guy about to retire, we observe in action the highly complex philosophical principle that an exit from one place is, incontrovertibly and simultaneously, an entrance somewhere else. The play shows you, to demonstrate, that even though you may leave town, the town you live in, the university you work at, or indeed the stage you're standing on, you do not actually cease to exist. You are still somewhere.
You're right where you've always been, at the very center of the universe, the place you've just come from, and in fact, the people who were there will almost immediately, as far as you're concerned, start dissolving, and within minutes, will be gone completely. This highly complex philosophical principle, call it subjectivism, find its foundations in every academic discipline, from philology to physics to photography, and is inextricable from any conversation about art or literature. One of my heroes, the playwright Samuel Beckett, actually built his career on it, writing such lines as, "In a flicker of my eyelids, whole days have flown," or, "I passed the time, I was time, I devoured the world." This principle helps explain the allure of Stoppard's 2 anti-heroes. For over 2 hours, his play ignores the profound conversations the Prince of Denmark is off having with himself, and instead explores the hidden lives of nobodies. Along the way, you actually come to appreciate them, so much so that in their final moments, they achieve the dignity of which Shakespeare deprived them. Sensing their disappearance is both imminent and necessary to the plot, they consign themselves to their transience, their inconsequence, and in a poignant "Now You See Me" finale, their lights simply blink out. First one, then the other. In the moments that follow, sitting in the dark, you feel the small voids they've just left in the universe. Well, those voids soon fill in, of course, and life goes on. But years later, probably when you're about to retire, something will remind you of them. And because that's how memory works, they will be present again, like old friends you now understand a bit better than you did. The play also demonstrates several other highly complex philosophical principles, one of which we'll call interchangeability or maybe duality. In neither Shakespeare's play nor Stoppard's do Rosencrantz and Guildenstern exist separately. One's name is never spoken without the other's, and neither does either ever appear alone. They are practically the same person, like a coin with two hands. Even when they're standing next to each other, no one can tell which one is which. People confuse them so often,
in fact, that even they cannot tell themselves apart. When, for instance, they encounter a traveling theatrical troupe,
and this is a crucial metaphor, so keep up.
they have difficulty introducing themselves.
My name is Guildenstern, and this is Rosencrantz.
No, that's...
I'm sorry. His name is Rosencrantz, and mine is Guildenstern.
No, you've missed it again.
I am Rosencrantz, and he is Guildenstern. Got it.
Which reminds me of a friend of mine, one with whom I apparently bear some similarity. So much, in fact, that we're often mistaken for each other.
He's a very handsome man.
He often tells me of people who, seeing him across campus, wave and call out,
Hello, Dr. Tuttle.
and he's a good sport, so he always waves back. But sometimes they ask things like,
Why do you make us read Samuel Beckett?
or
Do you and Kyra hate each other?
my personal favorite,
How's your wife doing?
to which he might reply,
She's great. What a gal.
or,
Haven't seen her in days.
or,
I've decided she's not my type.
which brings to mind an anecdote. Some years ago, I was asked by the Florence Little Theater to fill in as a member of the jury in Inherit the Wind, a famous play about the famous Scopes monkey trial. My task was simply to walk on stage, sit in the jury box, listen to the testimony, make several astonished faces, and then exit, having never said a word. My friend, meanwhile,
Being a highly accomplished actor,
was cast as E.K. Hornbeck, who was modeled after the famously cynical journalist H.L. Mencken. In this role, he gave an astounding performance.
cynical, that's my fascination. I do hateful things for which people love me, and lovable things for which they hate me. I am a friend of enemies and the enemy of friends.
When at the end he took his bows, the audience applauded wildly.
They rose to their feet.
The ovation seemed to go on forever.
He was utterly brilliant.
So brilliant that for weeks after, people would stop me and tell me how deeply they admired my performance.
Mesmerizing, unforgettable.
Really?
You were a revelation. You were made for the stage.
And I thought, wow. If I can claim that much focus just by walking in, sitting down, and standing up, I got the gift. Until at last it came to me,
Whereupon you corrected them.
whereupon I did not. I trust people to know talent when they see it. The whole episode reminded me of a very important point made by Schlegel in the philosophy of life and language.
Schlegel?
Yes. Schlegel wrote that,
You've read Schlegel.
yes, he wrote that,
Friedrich Schlegel, the famous German poet, critic, and philosopher, born 1772, died 1827.
1829, I think.
You're posturing.
I am not. It's something I talk about in my playwriting class. Schlegel wrote, and I quote, "Even when we are, or think we are, ourselves alone, we still think as two. We are constrained to recognize our innermost, proudest being as essentially dramatic."
Huh.
And what that means is,
Well, it's quite obvious what that means. It means we're always posturing. All of us. We're always aware that we're performing a role, whether it's famously cynical journalist or pathetic poseur professor.
whoa,
It means that when you were, or thought you were, alone in your study writing this very speech, you imagined another version of yourself, a different, better looking, more erudite person who could quote Schlegel and use words like erudite.
whoa.
You're using me, in fact, to illustrate Soren Kierkegaard's notion of the divided self, a person's inability to reconcile who he truly is with who he wishes to be.
You've read Kierkegaard.
Now, that's also in Stoppard's play. It's what the player means when he says, we're actors, we're the opposite of people. It explains why the actors never know who to be unless someone is watching them trying to be someone else.
I'm getting confused.
Listen, everyone is always trying to be someone else. And that's what gives us, all of us, purpose. It's a notion that goes back as far as Plato, though by 1977 it was called social learning theory by Canadian-American psychologist Albert Bandura.
Yes, of course.
And by the way, what the hell have you got against Samuel Beckett?
What, are you kidding? He's bleak.
He's not bleak, he's absurd. There's a difference.
We have time to grow old. The air is full of our cries.
Absurdism is a way of embracing hopelessness and suffering.
Astride a grave and a difficult birth, down in the hole the gravedigger puts on the forceps.
He actually writes with great sympathy.
If I had use of my body, I'd throw it out the window.
This friend of yours happens to love Beckett. He's performed in Endgame on the FMU stage.
Everybody thought it was me.
He played a blind, crippled crank named Ham. Finished. It's finished. Nearly finished. It must be nearly finished.
Bleak, bleak, bleak.
He once delivered an entire commencement address about Beckett. It ended with Beckett's famous line, ever tried, ever failed, no matter, try again.
Blah, blah, blah.
Well, that's nothing if not hopeful. The audience rose to their feet. There was weeping, actually. He still gets compliments about it.
So do I.
Well, and it's wonderful, isn't it? I mean, you're right. How many people get to experience that thrill, whether you're acting or teaching a class or giving a speech, to be seen and listened to and validated for who you are, even while you're pretending to be someone else.
Yeah. Probably not normal people.
Well, you're about to find out, aren't you?
What?
I hate to be the cranky little voice in your head that articulates all your anxieties, but I'm pretty sure that's why I'm here.
What?
I mean, you don't get to reinvent yourself. You have to reinvent yourself. And when you think about it, I mean, really think about it. Well, it's kind of horrifying.
It's not horrifying. Before you got here, I said it was exciting.
But you won't know who to be.
I'll be myself.
No, you won't. No, you won't.
Huh.
Where you're going, nobody will know you. Where you're going, no one will wave or call you doctor or ask why Ben Kyer says such terrible things about you. You'll have to hand this card out to strangers and say, as my biography indicates.
I'm going to take up pickleball.
Meanwhile, a new trustees research scholar, a new writer in residence, a new professor emeritus task force will have taken your place. And I hate to break it to you, but this morning, Chris Kennedy measured your office for window treatments.
That's okay.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
I'm retiring. Yay! It's going to be great.
Well, okay then. Yay.
Yay! It's going to be great.
Have you told your cats?
What?
Your cats, your little colony in the azalea glade?
Not yet.
Boy, that's going to be tough, huh? How long have you been feeding them?
Over 10 years.
10 years. Wow. They're like a little family, aren't they?
They are a little family.
That little white one that follows you around, the one you raised since he was a kitten, what's his name?
David. There's David and Richard the Elder and Ricky, son of Richard, last of his name, and Sonny and Callie and Shadow and Otis the Uncuddled.
Well, they're like your little pals, aren't they?
They are my little pals.
So how are you going to break it to them? On that last day, I mean, when you turn in your keys and walk over to scratch their little heads one last time.
I haven't thought about it.
Yes, you have.
No, I haven't.
You think about it every day. For weeks now, every time you pull up in your truck and they're sitting there in the little semicircle waiting for you, you think about how, after you're gone, they'll still be sitting there, waiting for you. Waiting in that same spot they've always waited. When will he come? When will he come? But you won't, ever. But that's okay.
No, it's not.
Sure it is. Eventually, they'll forget you. Day by day, they'll forget you a little more until finally it'll be like you never existed.
But
Probably take less than a week. I mean, cats are like that.
Fred,
It's too late for that.
is Fred here?
Fred can't help you now.
But I'm their pal. They rely on me. I bring them food.
It's okay.
It's not okay. I scratch her. Fred!
Stop. It's okay. I mean, listen. I'll take care of them.
You will?
Of course I will. I'll go over every morning.
Thank you.
They'll never even know you're gone.
I feel you've ruined my speech.
Well, it's almost over.
Thank God for that.
We're coming to the end right now.
Let's just get it over with.
This is the part where Rosencrantz and Guildenstern deliver their swan song just before they die. It's actually quite touching, very much like something Beckett would write.
Beckett sucks.
Shall we read it together?
No.
Would you like to be Rosencrantz or Guildenstern?
I don't want to be either one.
Not that it makes any difference. I'll just read both parts, and everyone will congratulate you later.
Wait.
Ready?
No, wait.
That's it then, is it?
I'm not ready yet.
The sun's going down, or the earth is coming up, as the fashionable theory has it. Not that it makes any difference.
I've changed my mind.
What was it all about? When did it begin? Couldn't we just stay put? I mean, no one is going to come and drag us off. They'll just have to wait. We're still young, fit. We've got years. All right then, I don't care. I've had enough. To tell you the truth, I'm now relieved. Now you see me?
Rosen? Gilden? Turn. Well, all right. If this evening were a play, I suppose this would be the climax. And I would hope my climax would approximate those in the works of Thornton Wilder, who is one of my heroes, as my biography indicates. His particular gift was creating in his audience a shared transcendent moment during which they could, however briefly, appreciate everything worthwhile. The greatest of these comes famously at the end of Our Town, where his protagonist, looking back on life and saying goodbye to all of its simple pleasures, like sunflowers and clocks ticking and coffee in the morning, exclaims, "So all that was going on, and we never noticed. It goes so fast. We don't have time to look at one another." Tonight, I am given the opportunity to look. Goodbye to my friends in the English department. There are so many things I will miss about you, but most of all by far, your laughter. Goodbye to my colleagues across campus in both the humanities and the inhumanities, who know so many incredible things like how to make art or machines or money or differential equations, whatever those are, or really good beer or sense of the world. Goodbye to my friends in the registrar's office and admissions and purchasing and the foundation and the physical plant and print shop and athletics and everywhere. I will miss having a village on whom I could always rely. I'll miss my pals in the Honors Center, Mark, and Jen, and Rachel, but most of all, Melissa, who is very simply the best of us. I will miss seeing on a daily basis the extraordinary example set by Fred and Folly Carter, who made us all family and feel like we matter and belong. I will miss David. Most of all, though, I will miss you students, honors and otherwise. What a great gift you have given me. You have made my life fun, each and every one of you, with perhaps 4 or 5 exceptions. I have come to realize, without feeling awkward about it, that I love you and that I can say it. I guess it's time. Thanks, everybody. I have loved...
Dr. John Tuttle, on behalf of the Francis Marion faculty and administration, I want to give you a small token compared to what you've given us over the years and what you gave us this afternoon. Thank you so, so much.
Thank you. Picture.